Hello and welcome to Blue Lives TV on the America Out Loud TV network. I am your host, Lieutenant Randy Sutton. I want to tell you a little bit about Blue Lives Matter. Blue Lives Matter is the largest grassroots police support organization in the country. You want to check out our website. It's bluelivesmatter.blue. It's got all the news that is all about law enforcement. And check us out on Facebook and Twitter. I am your host, Randy Sutton. We are going to start today. I want to talk to you about one of the most important topics in law enforcement. It's called policing with honor. I want to read to you a couple headlines. I grabbed these off of the news. 10 Atlanta police officers arrested by feds for protecting drug dealers. 21-year police veteran arrested for stealing marijuana. 7 Baltimore officers indicted. Jackson police officer arrested after lying about being shot. Now, while these headlines come from all over the regions of the United States that are nowhere near the city that I used to police, they cut through me. They leave me feeling ashamed. Now, I didn't know any of these cops. It wasn't my agency that was involved, and I certainly didn't do anything wrong. So why do I get emotionally charged when I read them? Because I'm a member of a profession that I believe to be the most honorable in the nation. Because I have proudly worn a badge on my chest for more than 30 years. And because I have knelt by the wall in Washington, D.C., where the names of thousands who gave up their lives in honorable performance of their duties are carved forever in stone. Now, as a police trainer, I've studied volumes on ethics of law enforcement. I have read articles written by doctors and professors and police chiefs and sheriffs. I have watched interview after interview with former cops while they recount the destruction of their careers and their lives, and still I'm left with more questions than answers. Now, why did these officers make the decisions that they did? Did their agencies fulfill their responsibilities to the public in the training of that officer? Could anything have been done to prevent the actions of the officer? Now, I believe myself to be a realist in that I know that in a profession that employs approximately 900,000 people, there will be a number who will transgress. Human weakness has been historically constant through the centuries and isn't likely to change anytime soon. But the field of law enforcement is quite unlike any other profession. Therefore, we must make every possible effort to be vigilant and innovative when it pertains to ethics. There's too much at stake not to take this responsibility seriously. Quite literally, our nation's law enforcement officers hold the power of life and liberty over its citizens. These are the most important and fundamental rights that a person can possess and must not be tread on. Law enforcement, in its zeal to protect the people of our country, especially in the wake of our new terrorism reality, must be constantly on guard against what is called noble cause corruption. Administrators and supervisors, they have to be very careful not to send out the message to our eager young officers that they must get the job done no matter what it takes. Falsifying investigative documents, manufacturing evidence in support of obtaining search warrants is a major cause of ruined lives and careers, and it cannot be justified, even when the eventual goal is to take a bad guy off the streets. This type of behavior, no matter how well-intentioned, cannot be tolerated, for it is all too often part of what we call the slippery slope of corruption and criminality. After spending 34 years as a police officer, I think I know a little bit about security and about keeping people safe. And there is one security company that stands above all the others. It's JSD Protective Services. Now, this is not your rent-a-cop, okay? This is 21st century security at its best. They're nationwide. They do everything. They do executive protection. They do armed security. They do detective work. They do even law enforcement functions. And here's what sets them apart: their training. Their training in security is second to none. I have been very, very impressed with their entire program. If you are have a need for security, JSD Protective Services, check them out. They're the best. Now, evidence has shown that in many cases, the outrageous conduct by a law enforcement officer where termination or criminal charges resulted was merely at the end of behavior which escalated in seriousness over a period of time. And that had the less serious issues been addressed effectively when first noticed, many scandals could have been averted, careers and lives saved. The 3 levels of accountability. Accountability is the most vital aspect of gauging the respect that we have for ourselves and those we have relationships with, be they familial, personal, or professional. And these levels can be applied universally. Accountability in a law enforcement organization has 3 equally important components that have to work in synchronization with one another. First, there is self-accountability. Now, each of us, from probationary officer all the way through to the head of the agency, plays an important role within the framework of the organization that they serve. Now, if you think of the organization as a living organism, then it's personnel that make up its organs and limbs, blood, and viscera. For the body to be healthy and performing at its peak, all of its parts have to be working in harmony with each other. When even a minor body part is not functioning well, it affects the body as a whole. And it's the same thing when one officer or agent within an agency commits a breach of trust, the whole organization suffers. But let's face it, all the internal affairs bureaus or professional standards inspectors that exist cannot force a person to act honestly and ethically. That's got to come from within. And taking responsibility for one's own actions is a trait that should come from one's own internal set of values, and that's self-accountability. The next component is supervisory accountability. When law enforcement officers go through the promotional process and take on supervisory roles for the first time, there is little by way of training to prepare them for their transition. Leaving behind being one of the guys and becoming a sergeant or supervisory agent is a difficult change for many. The familiar locker room or squad room banter that they once enjoyed changes in tone when they enter the scene. Sometimes there is resentment from former peers who believe that their promotion was unearned and was given simply because of politics or because he or she was a better test taker. The majority of the police agencies in this country are small in number of personnel, and so there is intimate knowledge amongst its employees of personnel as well as professional lives. Now, this familiarity can make taking a supervisory role even more difficult, but the person that has that role must take it very seriously, for they are in an incredibly important position. They are the second line of defense in the battle for ethical behavior. It is they who are in the best position to observe the conduct of their personnel and may encounter issues with that conduct. To not take firm and decisive action at the earliest opportunity not only poses its own ethical issues, but is a lost opportunity to demonstrate leadership. It may also save the career of the employee later down the road by clearly setting examples of expected behavior and correcting the transgression early. It is the first line supervisor who truly sets the standard for work ethic, on-duty behavior, and treatment of citizens. And the final aspect of accountability is administrative accountability. Law enforcement agencies throughout the country all have similarities in structure up to and including the head of the agency. If the agency is small, it may just be a chief and a captain or a couple of lieutenants. If it's large, there may be a full complement of staff officers or agents to make up the administration. There is no doubt that the entire ethical personality of an agency is determined by the head of the organization and those that he or she has chosen to surround themselves with. If upon appointment or election, the chief or sheriff selects men or women that are perceived of as competent and fair and ethical, the entire organization will respect the decisions that are made on their behalf and will affect their lives. If, however, the head of the agency enjoys a less than savory reputation, or they appoint or promote administrative bullies, they will surely destroy morale and set a low bar for ethical behavior for the agency's employees. Administrative staff must truly walk the walk ethically, for if not, when lower-ranking personnel are being disciplined for their transgressions, any punishment handed out will be seen as hypocritical, have no value or support. It's equally important that discipline administered be firm, fair, and fast. Personal grudges, past relationship issues, got to be put aside when both conducting internal investigations and determining administering discipline. The major question is this: what can we as a profession do to improve the ethical demeanor of our nation's law enforcement officers? There truly have been great strides made in recent years, for if you consider that historically speaking, law enforcement as we know it is a relatively new occupation, having evolved into its modern form in just over 100 years. The creation of internal affairs and professional standards bureaus is one example. The number of studies concerning the subject of law enforcement ethics and college degree programs available is another. Many agencies now offer training on the subject, beginning at the academy level, but we have not gone far enough. We have not set national standards for the hiring of law enforcement personnel. We have no national clearinghouse for information on those who have lost their certification or jobs as a result of criminality or misconduct leading to inappropriate rehiring. We've never established a consistent and comprehensive training strategy that addresses ethical issues. Well, these are a few of the reforms that I believe are necessary if we are to truly address this incredibly important topic on a national level. What can we do right now? Can police officers and agents, street cops and administrators do something that will have an immediate impact on their chosen profession? You better believe it. I know they do. You see, I truly believe that the vast majority of those who enter the field of law enforcement do so out of a sense of purpose and patriotism. They fully intend to honor their commitment to the ideals of what their badge represents. It is that trait that we must build upon. We must create what I call a culture of pride, simple in its approach. Building a culture of pride begins with each one of us realizing that we are important and that we play a vital role in the lives of others. Once we can accept that about ourselves, we must look at our colleagues and coworkers with renewed respect, for they too are members of a noble profession. When a person has pride in themselves, they are far less likely to dishonor what it is they believe they stand for, and pride has a way of becoming contagious. I remember when I graduated from the police academy. I remember the feeling that I had in my crisp uniform. That is the feeling we must strive to recapture, for within that cloak of pride, we are the most invulnerable from our baser instincts. Too simple, some may think, too unrealistic? To those I ask this: why not believe in yourself? Why not believe in your profession? You have absolutely nothing to lose except some stress and maybe some attitude. Organizationally, each of us can play a role in building the pride in our agency. From the cop on the beat taking a little extra time on their uniform appearance to the top administrator who can build pride through seeing that their personnel are properly equipped and provided with support, both technical and personal. All of us can make a difference. Law enforcement in this nation has never faced tougher challenges than it does today and will in the future. The threats of terrorism and rising criminality within our communities, together with diminishing resources and budgets, will exert pressures never before experienced. We must be prepared physically. We must be prepared mentally. We must take pride in ourselves, our agencies, and our profession. By doing so, we will be better prepared to face the formidable challenges of the future, build strong bridges with our communities, and we will truly be policing with honor.